Our formal proceedings this afternoon will be followed by the usual short presentation, this year on a Dig It project undertaken in collaboration with North East Scotland College and with support from AOC Archaeology. It highlights work undertaken by Eliza Doyley Geddes, Lady Trail Burrows, a female antiquarian from Trumland House on Rousey, Orkney, about whom a short film has been created. Afterwards, those in the hall will be invited to partake in a reception which will be provided. I should now introduce in the centre of the stage here today Dr. Kenneth Aitchison, our current treasurer, who is seeking re-election in that post. We annually reappoint to the position of treasurer. And beyond him, sheltering under the Christmas tree, Dr. Simon Gilmore, who is well known to you and has been our director since 2007. The hybrid format that we're operating today, and I should welcome fellows following us by the wonders of the internet, offers the opportunity for those unable to attend in person to participate in today's proceedings. We hope that the technology to achieve this all functions smoothly, but if we do encounter any technical glitches, we trust fellows can be patient while we seek to resolve them. This format, our new normal, so to say, has also meant that we continue to operate the process of voting first used last session. As is our custom, I now invite all fellows to join me in a brief moment of silent contemplation of those fellows we have lost over the previous year, including our honorary fellows, Mrs. Audrey Henschel and Caroline Wickham-Jones, and Professors Emeriti Ted Cowan and Diederik van der Waals. We have also seen the death of our patron, Her late Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II. I should also now invite AOCB, any other competent business, to be added to the agenda. Is there any AOCB? Okay, thank you. Our next business is to approve the minutes of the last lecture meeting held here on the 17th of November. I now ask the director to read the minutes of that meeting.
Good afternoon, fellows and guests. The minutes of the meeting of the Society of Antiquaries of Scotland held at 6 p.m. in the Augustine United Church, George Forth Bridge, Edinburgh, on Thursday, 17th November 2022. Ian Ralston, President of the Society, in the chair. The minutes of the previous lecture meeting were read and approved. The following communication was read. Hunter-Gatherer Ireland by Professor Graham Warren, University College Dublin, followed by a question and answer session.
Thank you, Simon. The next business is that I should formally register that the ballots have closed. Of course, the need to collate online and paper votes means that, as advertised, the ballot closed in advance of this meeting on Tuesday, the 29th of November, yesterday at noon. The votes have been assessed by two scrutineers, Dr. Mary Davis, who I see here, and Matt Ritchie, both FSA Scot. And I thank them for their help in this matter. The results will be announced in full during the meeting. Our next business is to receive the Treasurer's annual report.
Good afternoon. I'm Kenneth Aitchison. I am Treasurer of the Society, and it is my pleasure to present my Treasurer's report to you today. This is a report on the financial affairs of the Society for the year ending 31st May 2022. So here we are 6 months into the next year. Our financial years end at the end of May. All trustees of the Society are ultimately jointly responsible for the proper running of the Society's financial affairs. There is a finance committee within Council, which has a particular interest in financial matters, and I chair that committee. The abbreviated accounts. You should all have a copy of the abbreviated accounts as part of your AGM papers. You do not need to produce them to make reference to as we go through the meeting. But just To remind you that the layout of the abbreviated accounts will be familiar to most of you. There is a statement of financial affairs for the year to 31st May 2022, which is on page 21, followed by a balance sheet at 31st May 22 on page 22. The brief financial review. Our accounts have been audited and they indicate that we had a total income for the year of £566,054. In the previous year, we had an income of £526,538. Our total expenditure was £688,407. In 2020 to 21, the expenditure was £661,118. However, the result for the year, including movement on investments, was an overall deficit of £224,076, whereas in 2020 to 21, we had a net income of £208,764. This deficit is due to both losses on investments and increasing costs to the society. The underlying core activity, excluding gains or losses on investments, represents a net expenditure of £122,353, whereas in 2020 to 21, our net expenditure was £134,580. Simplified even further, we lost money last year, and it is mostly to do with the value of our investments. We lost an amount of money overall on our regular activities. On to talk about the statement of financial activities in more detail. The most important line in that statement is net income / expenditure at the foot of the first page. This shows that our annual income over the year was £224,000 less than our annual expenditure. We spent more than we received. And that is, as already noted, a substantial change on the year before when we had net income of £208,000. To review how we got to these figures, the important considerations are, again, comparing 2022 figures with 2021. Although our total income was £40,000 more than the year before, our expenditure, specifically on raising funds and charitable activities, was £27,000 more than previous year. The most significant areas of increase there were about relating to PSAS expenditure, book expenditure, Digit and Scarf. But while that would have resulted in a net surplus, a net gain, this is more than overcome by our net losses or gains on investments. In the year to 31st May 2022, our investments lost more than £101,000 of value. And by comparison, in the previous year, our investments gained £343,000 of value. So, despite our net income increasing by more than our expenditure on raising funds and charitable activities, we have an overall deficit for the year. And this is primarily because of the consequence of losses on our investments. Now, this is an appropriate time to mention the Society's strategy on investments. These are managed on our behalf by Investec Wealth and Investment. The Treasurer and Director meet regularly with our investment managers to review the Society's situation and risk appetite. We met, and this is by chance that it was on this day, that we met with the investment managers on the 24th of February. 24th of February was the day that Russia invaded Ukraine. And got to say, not least because of the war, investment markets have been uncertain and volatile this year. Even without knowing what the consequences of the war were going to be, we sought to reduce the Society's exposure to market risk. And so at that meeting, we adopted a change in risk level for our designated portfolio. It was previously set as medium to high. We have reduced the amount of risk we want to see ourselves exposed to medium. And so overall, the Society planned and operated with a slightly smaller than last year deficit budget. And we maintained cash flow security by undertaking planned drawdowns from our investments. This has meant that the overall pattern of operational income and expenditure is in line with the budget agreed by Council at the start of the year. And I think this is satisfactory. The level of investment income is lower than had been anticipated. Okay, and then to move briefly to the balance sheet, the main movements in assets during the year reflect the decrease in the value of the Society's investments. Overall, and so this means that overall, as seen in net assets, the Society ended the year with over £2.1 million in assets. Our final review. The year in review was significantly affected by two globally significant external processes, coming to the near end of COVID-19 restrictions and the Russian invasion of Ukraine. These exogenous changes have had critical effects on the Society's finances, and we cannot influence such events, but we can manage their effects on the Society. And as reported in the strategic plan, the Society is aiming to align operational income and expenditure over the 5 years of this plan, resulting in balanced rather than deficit budgets becoming the norm at plan end. This year just completed, in 21-22, our deficit, net expenditure, was 122,000. Our net expenditure the year before was 134,000. So I think I am content that we are already moving in the right direction. Overall, this is a team effort. I've reported today on work undertaken by others on behalf of the Society. So I would like to end with some acknowledgements. I want to thank the staff of the Society, particularly Director Simon Gilmore, and our Finance Manager, Jan Patterson, who is here, but yes, there she is, and who between them are primarily responsible for day-to-day management of the Society's financial affairs. We benefit from external advisors, and so I would like to thank our auditors, Henderson Logie, and David Ferguson, who is our investment manager at Investec. And finally, I am grateful to fellow trustees and on the Finance Committee for their support and advice during the past year. Thank you, Mr. President.
May I ask whether there are any questions for the Treasurer? Yes, let me please repeat the essence of the question so that those online can follow. We're seeking a comparison between the value of the investments today compared to where they were at the end of May this year.
Thank you. Technically, I can't answer that question because to be able to answer that, we would need a report from our investment managers. We don't get reports on a month-to-month basis from them. And so, unfortunately, all I can do is point towards the nature of the stock market in general, rather than the specifics of our investment. I think that the stock market in the last 6 months, this is opinion, not truly a proper answer to your question. In the last 6 months, has not been as grim as it was in the period up until the point of our reporting. So it means that I have a gut feeling things haven't, the value of the investments has not deteriorated too badly, but I'm afraid I can't actually answer your question. Good question, though, thank you.
Are you content with the level of fees being charged for the management of our funds?
From the perspective of Treasurer, Finance Committee reporting to Council, yes, we are satisfied with the level of fees that we're paying, although we do keep this under annual review and the relationship with our investment managers, we are content with that level of fees. Thank you.
I'm afraid this isn't a question, it's a point of information. Most investing companies, and I think the one that the Antiquaries are part of, you get quarterly reports and you can also access online on a monthly basis.
Thank you for that valid observation. Yes, we can, and I did look at the value of our investments this morning, but I don't feel confident in being able to identify exactly what changes there have been over the last 6 months. Thank you.
Our next business then is to ask the Director for his annual report.
Good afternoon, everyone, fellows and guests. That's been some year, hasn't it? As usual, I encourage you to read the full Trustees' Report of the Society financial year, which is available now on our website. And while it covers a different period, it has a lot more detail on our activity than I can manage this afternoon. I will report that despite another challenging year, we've been extremely busy, and I am aimed to highlight some of that work to you this afternoon. Following consultation with fellows, we launched our new 5-year strategic plan with the new vision, mission statement, and society values. It includes core principles regarding the climate emergency and equality, which we expect to integrate into everything we do. Once again, however, the pandemic has meant that we shelved plans to celebrate the founding of the society. So instead, we're contemplating something to mark receiving our Royal Charter 240 years ago in 1783. As I mentioned in the most recent newsletter, which I hope you all read avidly, we are considering a fundraising dinner in Cayley at the National Museum later in 2023, and I'd welcome your thoughts on that and any other ideas that you may have. I'm very pleased to report that we had 51 fellows elected in our spring election event, and 65 are on the ballot this afternoon, not this evening. A total of 116, which is only slightly down on the previous year, despite the increasing pressure on people's pockets. I'm extremely grateful to you, as fellows, for encouraging so many new members, and this is a key means of ensuring that the society is vibrant into the future. We recognise, of course, that there are real external pressures on our fellowship, and that the proposed increases in subscription rates might be difficult for some. We have tried to keep increases as low as possible and expect that any future increases will be more regular and smaller. However, should you require it, we can offer regular smaller payments across the year to help your cash flow. And remember that your subscription to the Society is tax deductible as a professional organisation recognised by HMRC. Please don't hesitate to contact Jan Patterson, our finance manager, in the office if you have any queries or problems. And speaking of problems, we'd also like to apologise for the issues we've been having with our membership database, which has meant that payments were either allocated incorrectly or not at all against some of your subscriptions. It has taken a lot of hard work over a long time to resolve those issues, but we think we're now on top of it. And I would like to extend my personal thanks to Jan for her indomitable spirit in seeing this through when others would have just thrown in the towel. It really, it was very difficult. Coupled with a new website, which a quick flash of in the bottom right corner of the slide there, is coming soon, we would now expect subscriptions and other payments to be more efficient and accurate. And the new website will allow you to make payments online and to change your details and so on. This year, we also celebrate 10 more fellows who have 50 years membership under their belt. And I don't know, are any of you here in the room? Oh, one, at least one. Excellent. And any online as well. I'd like to invite everyone to thank them for their support of the Society. I think that was Trevor Watkins, was it, that put his hand up? Yes. Thank you very much. I would also like to formally thank fellows for your donations and bequests to the Society. These include a generous legacy from Miss Audrey Henschel, our honorary fellow, who passed away in December last year, and we have just been informed may have left us some £100,000 to support prehistoric research. We very much look forward to receiving this fantastic gift and being able to distribute it to the benefit of excellent projects and scholars. If you haven't already, I make the heartfelt plea to you to consider leaving the Society a gift in your will, or a donation as you pay your subscription or sign up to an event. Indeed, any time, any donation, any sum, large or small, will make a difference and help to support our charitable work. The prestigious Rhind Lectures were presented this year by Professor Teresa Singleton from Syracuse University in the States, who spoke on unearthing the African diaspora and explored the archaeology of enslavement through her experiences in various roles and through different projects in the southern United States, the Dominican Republic, and Cuba. The event was chaired by Alison Sheridan, and the recording of the lectures and Q&A are on our YouTube channel. We're grateful again to AOC Archaeology Group, who continue to support the Rhind Lectures. And I can reveal here today that next year's round lectures will be The Maya of Mesoamerica by Professor Elizabeth Graham. Did I say that right? Mesoamerica, I meant to say. Our lectures this year have been mainly hybrid events, brilliantly handled behind the scenes by Jade Dent, our Fellowship and Events Officer, who was on the decks again this afternoon. Over 1,200 people attended our lectures, both in person and online, from across Scotland and the rest of the world. And so far, just in this lecture season, so basically October and November, we've seen 269 attendees already. While the relaxation of pandemic restrictions has meant our YouTube channel has seen fewer visits over the last year, there's still about 17,500 more than pre-pandemic. And with over 104,000 views and slightly increased average view duration, this platform really indicates the strength of interest in factual knowledge disseminated by the Society. So please do subscribe to our YouTube channel and peruse the 268 recorded presentations we curate there. Archaeology Scotland hosted the hybrid Archaeological Research and Progress Conference from Aberdeen, with talks now online on their YouTube channel and accessible from ours. And we also partnered with the Orkney Science Festival again in September this year. Andrea, our Fellowship and Development Manager, started a series of wholly online fellowship meetings early in the first pandemic lockdown, and this year has organised 15 with over 160 fellows joining in. I'm afraid that for various reasons I've been unable to attend most of them, but they will be mentioned by the President later. Unfortunately again, despite being fully booked, the summer excursion had to be cancelled, this time in deference to the period of mourning for our patron, Her Royal Highness the Queen. However, we are reorganising this trip to Dunfermline for later next year, after the Archaeological Research and Progress Conference at the end of May, and before the 2023 round lectures in September. So keep an eye on our newsletter, website, and your emails for further information. We continue to build and host an impressive online publications resource, featuring not only digital editions of books and open access Scottish Archaeology Internet reports known as SARE, but also our annual journal, The Proceedings of the Society of Antiquaries of Scotland, published since 1851 and preceded by Archaeologia Scotica, also online. The download statistics are impressive, but I'll only highlight a couple here. PSAS saw 646,800 article downloads. That's almost 54,000 a month. And online books have increased from 19,500 downloads a year to 45,000 downloads, which is about 3,750 a month. And so therefore, there were on average almost 69,500 downloads of Society online publications every month throughout the past year. Those are fantastic statistics. Both PSAS and SARE are now being published as in extensible markup language, or XML, and that allows the articles to be converted to a mobile-friendly format, braille, large print, or synthetic speech. This innovation makes our journals more accessible on tablets and mobile phones, and for those with certain disabilities, helping to deliver on the Society's commitment to the FAIR principles for scientific data management and stewardship. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank our Editorial Advisory Board for their sterling work in supporting our managing editor for the first time, determining the winner of the annual RBK Stevenson Prize, to be revealed later. We launched no less than 6 new ebooks, free to read at your leisure on our web platform. Seen here, these include the Saltire Award-winning Darkness Visible by fellows Ian Armitt and Lindsay Booster, and most recently, Rum, Mesolithic and Later Sites at Kinloch by our late Honorary Fellow Caroline Wickham-Jones, launched to support the recent conference in our name in Aberdeen. This latter has new scans of the microfiche reports, which were a regular part of Society publications for a while, but are increasingly hard to find readers for. All of these magnificent books are free to view, and many have already been downloaded hundreds of times every month. Further books are in the process of being moved to and produced specifically for the online platform. Our most recent book, Radar in Scotland by Ian Brown, is garnering excellent reviews and selling very well. So if you want your copy, get it quick before Christmas, before they sell out. And there's plenty of copies of many of our books over there. Remember also, especially if you're online, to take advantage of our discount code for books, £5 off for today and tomorrow in our online shop. Our next book will be Professor W.H. Manning's The Iron Artifacts from Tremontium, the Roman Fort of Newstead, edited by our fellow Dr. Fraser Hunter. PSAS 151 is now available online to fellows, and the hard copy will be arriving on doorsteps soon. It includes 10 articles ranging across Scotland from the Neolithic to the 21st century, investigating grooved ware, dunes, Romans, coins, castles, plaster ceilings, heart brooches, genealogy, and museum history and collections. We recently published our 100th Sayer on the excavation of a prehistoric settlement at Lower Slackbui in Inverness by fellow Claire Christie and Magnar Dalland, detailing work on a landscape rich in human activity dating from the Neolithic period onwards. This joins other fully peer-reviewed and gold open access reports from fellow Bill Hansen on excavations outside the Roman fort of the Antonine Wall at Croy Hill, and from fellows Roddy Regan and Ewan Campbell on 2 Iron Age dunes in Western Scotland, excavations at Barnloasgen and Ballure, North Knapdale, Argyll. Diggett was shortlisted for Council for British Archaeology's UK and Ireland Archaeological Achievement Awards in 2022. Our Crafting the Past Shared Histories project, which uses Minecraft to explore the Norse heritage on St Kilda in collaboration with Immersive Minds and a school in Sweden, with additional expertise from Historic Environment Scotland, was nominated in both the Archaeological Innovation and Engagement and Participation categories, while Scotland Digs 2022 was nominated in the Public Dissemination and Presentation category, and last night won a highly commended award. The team are presently on the way back from Dublin, but many congratulations to them. The Scotland Digs campaign adopted a climate action archaeology theme and promoted over 20 fieldwork events to the public with almost 62,000 users engaging with the content on social media. The project was once again covered by national and local press and included artwork commissioned to reflect the theme, made with materials such as recycled plastic. Around this time last year, we also teamed up with Stout Stoke Press to launch a crowdfunding campaign for Carved in Stone, which is a collaboration between tabletop role-playing game designers and archaeologists, which will enable players to learn more about the Picts. Over £30,000 was raised from over 877 backers in just a few weeks, which means that the game will arrive in 2023 with free copies made available to community and education groups. So thanks to everyone who backed that campaign. Diggett worked with Andrew Glasgow and the Chartered Institute for Archaeologists to enable young people from Scotland's Roma community to explore the heritage sector and particularly archaeology as a potential career option. And this was part of the University of Strathclyde-led Equality, Diversity and Inclusion in Scottish Heritage, or EDISH, project, designed to create capacity and address EDI issues with a focus on race in Scotland's heritage sector. The work of young people of the EDISH project as a whole was shortlisted for a Young Scot Award. Diggett have been closely involved in the Make Your Mark campaign to increase the number and diversity of heritage volunteers in Scotland. Built on the Our Place and Time working group for volunteering and chaired by Volunteering Scotland, we've helped form and develop the campaign, including attracting funding for research into volunteering and supporting organisations with their volunteering programmes. Diggett will look to play a core role in supporting the campaign in 2023. Work completed on the first phase of the Forgotten Stories project, telling the stories of women who made contributions to Scottish archaeology over the past few centuries. As well as articles and blog posts, this involved creating a short film on Eliza Trail Burroughs' discovery at Traverso Tuic, Neolithic tomb on Rousey, Orkney, seen here with a particularly small scale on the left-hand side. My son. You will hear more later from Dr. Neela Shoma Mason about how she brought this story to life on film in collaboration with students from North East Scotland College, including filming on location at a National Trust for Scotland property. And we're particularly grateful to AOC Archaeology again for funding support for this project. The SCARF team launched Perth and Kinross Archaeological Research Framework on their website in September this year, and this was the culmination of a 3-year project led by Perth and Kinross Heritage Trust and supported throughout by the Society. PCARF has already had over 7,500 page views in 2 months, and the SCARF website as a whole had over 100,000 visits, which is a record. Work on other regional frameworks continues, with Scotland's Islands Research Framework for Archaeology and the South East of Scotland Archaeological Research Framework in progress. A recent bid for funding was submitted for a new Clyde Region Research Framework in collaboration with Glasgow University Archaeology Department and Archaeology Scotland, which we hope to begin in 2023. We've also started to add the Antonine Wall World Heritage Site Research Framework to SCARF as well, which will launch early next year. Work has been progressing on a UK-wide archaeology research framework resource, which will bring them all together in a fully searchable way to benefit research across the country. The latest version of OASIS, the portal for reporting archaeological work in the UK, launches in Scotland this week. And for the first time, work that helps to answer or add to SCARF research questions can be fed directly back into SCARF, keeping it updated and relevant. SCARF has also been involved in supporting the Discovery Programme, developed plans for a research framework for the island of Ireland. Following an independent review in 2021, the Society agreed a new contract with Historic Environment Scotland to continue to manage the SCARF project for the next 4 years. This provides funding to deliver this critical aspect of archaeology in Scotland, keeping its future secure. And this month, SCARF celebrated its 10th anniversary of the launch of the original national framework, with a successful event on Saturday that looked to the future and what it might hold for research frameworks, as well as a little bit of looking in the past as well, which was good fun. Both DIGIT and SCARF are major national projects delivering benefits for archaeological research across Scotland, and as models of good practice for other countries, they've helped make Scotland a leader in the research and promotion of our amazing archaeological resources, not just the sites and monuments themselves, but the people delivering archaeological practice in Scotland. And we're only able to do this with your support. The Grants and Awards Committee were able to offer grants totalling almost £29,000, more again than previous years. Our funding is available to conduct all sorts of research related to Scotland's past, and this slide illustrates the wide-ranging nature of recipients' research this year, from Mesolithic excavations in the Highlands to archival research into comic art from Dundee. Advocacy this year included responding to consultations from Historic Environment Scotland on possible changes to battlefield policy and management, and the Scottish Government on a proposed new agriculture bill, which did not include the historic environment at all. We made, or are making, it's yet to be sent in, clear, and we're making clear alongside other colleagues that provisions for payments to manage the historic environment on agricultural land should be included in the new scheme, similar to those proposed in the Welsh Agriculture Bill. We also responded to a Scottish Government consultation on the new National Planning Framework, known as MPF4, and we're very pleased to note that the new draft of this now includes many of the points we argued for. The Society has also been involved in discussions on the new National Historic Environment Strategy for Scotland, which follows on from the success of Our Place in Time and focuses on the current challenges and opportunities we face in the heritage sector. This has just been released for a 12-week consultation. Our own contribution to placemaking in Scotland has finally completed this year, when the 11th century AD Edinburgh runestone, originally from Sweden and presented to the Society in the 18th century and now relocated at 50 George Square, was finally graced by a new interpretation board, which includes a link to the Wikipedia page for the stone. We hope to have an unveiling ceremony in spring next year, but please feel free to visit the stone in its splendid new location, and there are even benches to use while you admire Eric the Rune Master's handiwork. We now have silk and wool ties and scarves in the Society tartan, and they are available for purchase again this afternoon. They make an excellent addition to your Christmas gift list and keep you warm. We look forward to seeing fellows wearing them at our and other events across the globe. So please do send in pictures of you wearing them, and we can use those to promote them and our fellowship. Every penny spent goes towards supporting the Society. Your staff have continued to work tirelessly on our charitable activity, and I am immensely proud and grateful to them all. This year, we welcome Jennifer Allison as our new full-time SCARF project officer, And Jennifer has just submitted her PhD on First Millennium AD settlement in Scotland and has hit the ground running, helping to ensure the smooth completion of the PCARF and promoting SCARF at various events around Scotland. Jennifer's sitting at the front here as well. So finally, I wanted to remind you that despite the difficult financial headwinds, as politicians are so fond of saying, we have in the society a unique and cherished charity that I hope you will agree continues to punch above its weight, delivering exceptional projects and information about Scotland's past to as many as possible with as few barriers as possible. We simply couldn't do this work without your support, both as fellows and the organisations you work for. AOC Archaeology have continued to support various projects and the Rind Lectures. Historic Environment Scotland support events like the Archaeological Research and Progress Conference, as well as Dig It and SCARF, and has supported several of our publications. The Mark Fitch Fund and several private donors helped fund our most recent book on radar in Scotland, and fellows and non-fellows alike have donated in memory of our late Honorary Fellow Caroline Wickham-Jones. As a non-profit charity, we need both subscriptions and donations or sponsorship to help us continue our work. In addition, legacies have the power to transform the Society's sustainability and secure its future, so please do consider the Society in your will. Stay safe, continue to develop that sense of fellowship and mutual support, and be nice to one another. Thank you.
So thank you for that, and thank you to the Director for his report. Our next business is to consider the results of the ballots. All these have been duly scrutinised by Dr. Davies and Mr. Ritchie, as previously mentioned, and I thank them for their endeavours. I should now like to announce the results. 225 votes were recorded. Of these, 217 were cast online, with 8 people voting by paper ballot delivered to the office. All 65 fellows proposed for election received a clear majority of votes for, with only a handful of votes against and few abstentions. I can therefore announce that all candidates on the ballot have been elected to fellowship of the Society, and I congratulate them and thank their sponsors. The Society's staff have put together a few slides to illustrate the geographical range of these new fellows and to list their names. I hope this is a more informative way for you of introducing them to the Society than simply rehearsing a lengthy roll call. And I'll just pause for a moment here while my glamorous assistant puts up the screens. We have 43 new fellows from the United Kingdom, who will be spread over this and the next slide. Most are from Scotland, but others are variously from London, Cardiff, and Bournemouth. 17 are from the USA, mainly Texas, California, Indiana, and North Carolina, but from other states as well. And in our rest of the world category, we have 5 for this year, all from Canada. On behalf of the Society, I should like to extend a warm welcome to all our new fellows. Would any new fellows who are in the audience please make themselves known? And those online, please use the chat function or raise your virtual hands. Great. Good to see you all and welcome. And may I ask the fellows to greet you. I would hope to see you briefly at the end of today's deliberations for a photograph, please. And now the less good news. Society staff will be contacting newly elected fellows by email later this week to provide instructions on how to complete the process of election to fellowship and how to pay your subscriptions. I've invited those who are here today, and I'm delighted to see so many of you to come for a photograph after today's formalities. May I ask those online or who are not present today, they are very much encouraged to send the Society's fellowship team a photo of themselves, which we can use to publicise their election in the Society's newsletter and its current and, as you have heard, soon to be upgraded websites. I should now like to pass to the matter of council changes and the results of the councillors' ballot. Our thanks are due first to Dr. Heather James for her service to the Society as a long-standing colleague on council, where she has assisted for some 6 years and has now completed her term of office. Heather served latterly as Vice President and has convened the Grants and Awards Committee and contributed, amongst other things, to the work of the President's Committee. She has made an excellent contribution to the smooth running of the Society and to the due diligence of Society governance. In accordance with established procedures, I can advise that Dr. Suzanne Lyle has been appointed by Council from amongst their number to replace Heather as Vice President and will take up office from this meeting. I should very much like to welcome Suzanne to her new role and note that she very kindly represented the Society in the Council for British Archaeology Awards in Dublin last night, and which Simon mentioned a moment ago. And she's therefore online today. We've had to mothball the Society Learjet, so we couldn't get her across from Dublin in time. We now turn to the results of the ballot, and we're greatly heartened to see so many fellows put themselves forward for the 2 available positions, the second occasioned by the discontinuation of the position allocated to the North East section, which we'll come to again later. In addition, Dr. Kenneth Aitchison is standing again for Treasurer in accordance with the annual re-election required for that position. In total, 191 votes were cast online, with 8 fellows voting by post. Dr. Aitchison received 171 votes for and 10 against, with 10 abstentions. It's therefore a pleasure to welcome Dr. Aitchison as Treasurer of the Society for a further year. Thank you, Kenneth. Our second contested election for councillors has been eminently successful. We had 14 applications, one of which was withdrawn by the candidate. The field of 13 applicants from Britain and beyond for 2 positions is a great vindication of the interest shown by fellows in their society. We earnestly hope that the candidates who are not elected this afternoon will accept our thanks for their interest in greater involvement with the Society and hope that they will continue to support and promote the Society in other ways. I can now confirm that the following votes were cast, and I shall do so in 2 stages to conform with the Society's established election procedures. Firstly, I shall list by alphabetical order of surname those candidates eliminated because they received fewer votes for than against. They are Dr. Deborah Baird, who received 40 votes for and 68 against, with 86 abstentions. Mr. Christian Dominic Boyd received 34 votes for but 70 against, with 89 abstentions. Mr. Roderick Forsyth Nielsen received 52 votes for but 56 against, with 86 abstentions. Mr. Wayne Robert Mackin received 34 votes for but 66 against and 91 abstentions. Mr. David Patey received 32 votes for, but 67 against, with 94 abstentions. And Dr. Chelsea Anna Slaughton received 51 votes for, but 59 against, with 84 abstentions. And lastly, in this category, Mr. Alan Richard Morrison Steele, who received 56 votes for, but 60 against, with 79 abstentions. For those candidates who received more votes for than against, only positive votes cast by our electorate count, and I shall therefore list those fellows in ascending order of positive votes. Mr. James Richard Terzian received 62 votes for, but 61 against, with 72 abstentions. Dr. Pamela Estelle O'Neill received 66 votes for and 46 against, and 83 abstentions. Dr. Susan O'Connor received 72 votes for, 44 against, 77 abstentions. Dr. Alexandra Fitzpatrick received 78 votes for and 41 against, with 77 abstentions. Ms. Emma Rose Carver received 83 votes for and 38 against, with 58 abstentions. And lastly, Professor Ian Winston Frederick Baxter received 100 votes for and 38 against, with 58 abstentions. I must express the Society's and my personal thanks again to all candidates for having put themselves forward. And I can announce now that Professor Ian Baxter and Ms. Emma Carver have been duly elected as councillors and will thus serve as trustees of the Society in terms of the relevant legislation and regulations. I should like to express a warm welcome and extend a warm welcome to our new councillors. If either of you is present, either online? No. Well, in any case, I invite the fellows present to congratulate them. Our next business is to consider the law change that was put before you. I shall speak briefly to this motion. The Aberdeen and North East section of the Society has been suspended since September 2021 by Council at the request initially of some of its prominent members. It, importantly, did have a member on Council as of right. This minor change to the laws is being made to reflect changing circumstances, notably the reconfiguration of opportunities to engage in archaeology and history in and around Aberdeen, as I mentioned in my presidential address last year. And it's also been impacted by the development of our online offerings, meaning that fellows are able to follow our lectures on the day they're presented in Edinburgh, rather than hearing them repeated the next day in Aberdeen. So circumstances have changed, but since the suspension, several well-attended online fellows meetings, we've been hearing about them and I shall say more in my presidential address, have been convened by our Fellowship and Development Manager for those resident in the area. So it is by no means the case that we have abandoned the Northeast. Now, in the case of this motion, 180 ballots were cast online with 8 by post. The votes were as follows: 185 for, 2 against, with 1 abstention. The motion is thus carried, and the laws of the Society have been duly amended as a consequence. Motion 2 concerned a proposal to change the subscription rates of the Society, and I now invite the Treasurer to speak on this motion.
Thank you, Ian. Okay, you have seen the motion, you have voted on the motion. This is that Council proposes that the subscription rates be changed. I'll not go through the detail of those changes, but just to speak to the reasons for these proposed changes, proposed increases. Annual subscriptions paid by fellows are the core of the Society's income. They make up the single largest source of funds, 30.5% this year. And importantly, they are unrestricted. We can spend them on anything, subject to our charitable objectives, of course. The current rates were approved by the fellows in November 2018 and have applied since July 2019 because Council decided to freeze the subscription rates for 2 years during the COVID period. Because of this, inflation has eroded the value of subscriptions by 14%, and with predicted inflation for this coming year to perhaps be as much as 11% and then to stay high for another years yet, that would be a cumulative depreciation of 25% on subscriptions by July next year. In addition, the costs of producing hard copy proceedings have risen by 30% since 2019 and postage costs by 200%. As I say, Council have already frozen subscriptions over 2 years and offered discounts to those in financial hardship. This means that the purpose of the proposed increase to subscriptions is to restore their value and to anticipate that in the future, only small annual increases may be required. We have made a slight change to the nature of subscriptions, the proposed subscriptions from this year going forward, that fellows receiving digital version of proceedings will be entitled to a discount because they are currently subsidising those that are taking the hard copy version of PSAS, and Society is looking to ensure its income matches its costs. For your information, at the moment, 535 fellows receive hard copy PSAS of a fellowship of about 2,800. And these new subscription rates will be applicable from the 1st of July next year. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Dr. Aitchison. In this case, 180 ballots were cast online, and the votes were as follows: 135 for the proposed changes, 48 against, with 6 abstentions. I can therefore announce that the motion is carried and the new subscription rates will be implemented from the 1st of July next year. Our next business is to consider the RBK Stevenson Award, which the director mentioned earlier. This is an award made to recognise the author of the article published in the proceedings on a topic considered best to reflect the scholarship and high standards of Robert Stevenson, a distinguished scholar who was for many years keeper of the National Museum of Antiquaries of Scotland when it was in Queen Street, and was president of this society between 1975 and 1978. The final selection, as mentioned by the director, was made by our editorial advisory board. The RBK Stevenson Award this year is £100 and goes to our fellow Dr. Julie Holder for her paper Joseph Anderson, 1832 to 1916, and the Scottish Historical Collection in the Antiquities Museum, 1869 to 1892. And so I would now like to present this to Dr. Holder with our... Thank you, and congratulations to Dr. Holder. Our next business is another award, the Dorothy Marshall Medal. This is awarded by Council every third year to an individual proposed by a fellow who, in a voluntary capacity, has made an outstanding contribution to Scottish archaeological or related work. This prestigious silver medal commemorates Miss Dorothy Marshall, who in her own long lifetime contributed much to Scottish archaeology, especially that of her beloved Isle of Bute. The establishment of this award marks the Society's gratitude for the bequest it received following her death in 1992. This year's award goes to Mr. Martin Wildgoose in recognition of his outstanding contribution to the understanding of Skye's archaeological record. His expertise and knowledge of all aspects of that island's archaeology is unique and irreplaceable. For over 30 years, he has generously given his time and expertise wherever and whenever it was needed to understand, protect, conserve, and consolidate sites and landscape across the region, with the sole aim of enhancing the heritage of Skye and its surroundings. Martin's natural understanding of the landscape, his farmer's knowledge of the soil, his outstanding practical expertise and talent in drawing and recording have made him an essential component, an essential participant in every project on the island, and many a project on the island. Wherever he has been involved in Skye and Rassay and in Lochalsh, he has brought his considerable expertise and inspired imagination. His perspectives have always been founded on the careful piecing together of the evidence revealed, and then its presentation. Martin grew up on a small family farm in Derbyshire. From his early years, he was interested in field archaeology and soon met archaeologists from Sheffield University. They invited him to help as a volunteer. He attended local evening classes and joined in several excavations, including that of a Bronze Age and Anglo-Saxon burial site at Wigborough Low under then Dr. now Professor John Collis, and in the 1970s and 1980s in the Royston Grange project led by Richard Hodges. Martin helped with the excavations, but also undertook landscape survey, in particular dating the different styles of stone walls present in that vicinity. For this, he received the Pitt Rivers Award as Amateur Archaeologist of the Year. On his arrival in Skye in 1988, he started volunteering with Roger Mykett, then the museums officer for Skye and Lochalsh. His individual contributions are too numerous to list, but examples include the excavation of Tungadale souterrain and consolidation of several ancient churches. Martin also discovered early on an ability in recording, and his site drawings, always by hand, which also includes some freestyle reconstructions, are outstanding. Martin was the first to record the important early site at Antiquaries and drew the plans and sections. The site is now a scheduled ancient monument. At High Pasture Cave, Martin created the recording system and supervised the excavation and indeed the recording through the entire field project. He also conducted a full landscape survey which enabled that site to be placed into its wider context. Wherever Martin worked, he noticed things. He would go out for weekend walks to monitor sites he had seen, often over periods of years, returning to record sites when he could not find them mentioned in the local or national records. It was on one of these winter walks that he and Professor Karen Hardy found the coastal site of South Cuidrach near Uig, with its late Upper Paleolithic beginnings, and to the investigation of which the Society has recently awarded grants. There, Martin participated fully in all 6 seasons in the field. The Scottish First Settler Survey published by this society was led by Martin. In addition to the the site at Camas-Darrach, we published as a SAIR, Scottish Archaeological Internet Report, in 2004, was saved by Martin. More recently, he heard that Strathclyde cairn was being emptied. For several seasons, he recorded the work on this important site, and now his plans and sections are the only records of it that still exist. Martin has also conducted numerous public engagement walks and talks, and has supervised volunteer projects. He collaborated extensively with NOSAS, the North of Scotland Archaeological Services, supporting their Weed Digs project, which started in 2008, providing a guided tour of sites in Skye and enjoying extensive individual interactions with members. Martin has been an inspiration to those volunteers who were involved in the recording of prehistoric hut circles in northwest Scotland and in dating a small selection of them. He was a fountain of information and helped to interpret the surrounding terrain and the different architectural styles present. He has always been generous with his expertise and been ready to share and to discuss ideas. He never judged. He simply did what was required wherever and whenever it was needed to protect and record sites, and has always been hugely generous with his knowledge and his time. Martin has submitted countless reports to Discovery and Excavation in Scotland and Canmore, and following his retirement, he deposited his entire archive of reports and drawings in the Portree Archive Centre, where it is available for consultation. Martin's motivation has always been his love of archaeology, and he has dedicated much of his life to understanding and protecting it across Skye and Wester Ross without seeking personal acknowledgement. It is thus wholly appropriate that the Society recognises his work and acknowledges his many endeavours by awarding him the Dorothy Marshall Medal. Now, Mr. Wildgoose can't be present today, so I would like to pass the medal to Professor Karen Hardy on his behalf.
So Martin is extremely sorry not to be able to be here today. He's immensely proud of this award, and but he's not a man of many words. So he sent me a little thing here that he asked me to say to you. When I first read Dr. Gilmore's email, I thought there must have been a mistake. Why would the Society of Antiquaries of Scotland, a prestigious body indeed, award me the Dorothy Marshall Medal? It was then pointed out to me that my name had been put forward by a long-time friend and colleague, and that my nomination had been supported by a number of specialists within archaeology. I would like to thank the sponsor who put me forward and those who supported my nomination. I would also like to thank the Society and committee members who approved my nomination. I am very honoured indeed to join those previously awarded this prestigious accolade.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Congratulations. Well, fellows and guests, this is my second address as your president, and so, in the way of these things, I thought it advisable to look back at what I said last year to at least mark the scorecard on some matters. I'm also acutely conscious that you have already had a wide-ranging exposition on the Society's and its staff's endeavours over the year from our director. I shall therefore try, in the best traditions of just a minute, to avoid hesitation, deviation, and most importantly, but not wholly successfully, repetition. As previously, I hope you will excuse me if, still relatively new to the job, I have, however, lasted longer than a lettuce. I range quite widely and talk often indicatively on a range of matters. It remains an enormous privilege to serve as your president during what has been a less than straightforward year for the Society. In the aftermath of the pandemic, both events and perhaps critically many other opportunities for me to meet in the flesh as real living persons, our fellows, or indeed the Society's staff, are still infrequent. Staff continue, for the most part, to work from home with the directors' and council's approval. Of course, absence of contact hasn't entirely been the case. And one of the great, if initially unintended, successes consequent on the pandemic has been the decision to decant our main Edinburgh events here to the Augustine United Church on George IV Bridge. Benefits include the high quality of its IT facilities, the fact that we, in the form of tech-savvy staff member Jade Dent, can operate them, thus saving the costs of specialists and their equipment, fulfilling that on our behalf and at our further expense. And that we can readily and cost-effectively offer modest receptions following lectures, conferences, and the like. There are therefore enhanced opportunities for fellows to meet and mingle in person here compared to our previous venue. That said, it remains our intention to continue to disseminate our lectures and meetings in hybrid fashion. For another of the concomitants of recent changes is that the technologies of Zoom and/or Teams allow us to interact much better with our globally distributed fellowship. The Augustine Church has thus already been the venue for the 2022 series of Rind lectures, as well as lectures in our main programme, most recently that by Professor Warren of UCD that we signed off earlier in our deliberations. Last Saturday, a successful conference considering the past, present and future of the SCARF initiative, a decade after the launch of its initial mostly period-based framework on Scottish archaeology, also took place here. Our impression is that while some fellows have been yearning to attend in-person events anew, others are, wholly understandably, more cautious. This is another reason to maintain hybrid activities, with presentations and lectures continued to be available online thereafter for those not able to attend at the standard time. The Augustine Church is, however, in frequent use with some long-established bookings. This has necessitated the Society moving from its traditional Monday lecture slot, but we are aware that competition makes the third Thursday in the month, our current usual slot, less than wholly popular, and this will be reviewed. Other opportunities for meeting and socialising with fellows in person at Society events have, however, been rare. As the Director has noted, our first already rescheduled Fellows outing had to be postponed at short notice in September because of the death of Her late Majesty the Queen, our patron. The extraordinary length of her connection with society was made plain to me as I sought models for the wording of a loyal address to be sent to the palace on behalf of this society. The most recent example available was composed by William Moyer Calder, sometime Professor of Greek and at Edinburgh University and the Society's president, and it had been composed just months after I was born. I was honoured to attend the memorial service at the High Kirk of St Giles to represent the Society. Another of our councillors, Professor Ian Torrance, conducted part of that service. We think it is likely that King Charles will be our new patron in accordance with our charter, but await official confirmation. The Society, in particular through the efforts of its staff, has continued to function effectively. We have further extended the provision of online services, notably holding special meetings for fellows well beyond Scotland. Separately, we have reached our fellows in Ireland, in the United States, in Australia and New Zealand, and in Canada. I have been able to participate in some of these sessions. The capabilities of Zoom continue to allow our dispersed international network to interact in some ways unforeseen just a few short years ago. The sterling role of our long-standing secretaries for Australian and North American affairs, respectively James Donaldson and Hope Veer Anderson, is again acknowledged, all the more so when I was able to establish that Mr. Donaldson's family hails from the part of Scotland where I settled some 30-odd years ago. I regret that I was unable to get to California, which I'd been hoping to get to for a family wedding and where I hope to meet fellows. I'm afraid a dose of COVID put paid to that plan. As you have heard, our publication programs continue to flourish, supported by our dedicated publication team. This year, our Scottish Archaeological Internet reports have seen the online publication of volume 100 in that series. This is a significant milestone, which I still hope with the director to celebrate by retrospectively and prospectively considering the series achievements in making available what these days must be termed seriously big data derived from extensive archaeological fieldwork, much of it developer funded. Dr. Gilmore has already mentioned the important work of the Editorial Advisory Board. Its members, listed in each proceedings, have long acted as academic referees for papers submitted to the Society, but they have taken on a wider strategic role. Council remains acutely conscious that, like many learned societies for which high-quality publication as a key plank of their existence, that we are living in a fast-changing publication landscape in which costs can increase rapidly and technologies change with breathtaking speed. And the Treasurer has just alluded to that. Such costs include spiralling postal charges, as has been particularly plain this year. For these reasons, Council is in course of establishing a publication strategy committee tasked with quickly reviewing the options available to us across our range of publications in the immediate future. As ever, the Director and Council, as well as myself, are keen to know Fellows' views, but I have to report that the questionnaire circulated to Fellows last year on publications and other issues, and which I mentioned in my address, actually received such a low number of responses that they simply could not be treated as representative. As reported, Council changed its core working schedules last year, in part in response to the pandemic, but also in the longer term to reduce the Society's carbon footprint. We hoped that a pattern of occasional long in-person or hybrid meetings in Edinburgh, combined with shorter wholly online sessions, would encourage more fellows to put themselves forward to join Council. And the election just held, with an exceptional number of candidates from a very wide geography, suggests this pattern may have found favour. It is thus with some personal regret that I have to report that the decision has been taken to revert to the previous pattern of long but now hybrid meetings, albeit supported by more small specialist committees meeting online. We shall see whether this is effective in terms of costs and in other ways. I noted last year that the Society's website, which has grown like Topsy over the years, has become rather cumbersome to use. A major redesign, which we hope will make it more accessible to the wider public, but especially to you, our fellows, is currently underway, albeit behind schedule because of issues related to its integration with other Society IT systems. And to that, our Director has alluded. The intention is that, amongst many other things, there will be areas where information by and about fellows can be posted, such as books they have authors and lectures they have given on topics pertinent to the fields in which the Society operates. And the more general plan is thus to provide the means to stimulate discourse among the fellowship. In that regard, I should note that I am aware of and shall respond to, now the election over, concerns that have been expressed about fellows' use of email to contact other fellows. The Society has asked whether fellows wish their email addresses to be included in the online fellows directory. And of course, the Society can be approached by fellows to remove that information, should they so wish. The Director has mentioned several initiatives related to heritage in which the Society has been involved this year. There are, of course, numbers of other heritage-related issues on which fellows might have views, such as the consequences of the groundswell of interest in the encouragement of rewilding, yet another dimension of the nature-culture interface, which rarely moves far from centre stage these days. We hope to begin to explore this and cognate matters in a joint initiative with Archaeology Scotland in coming months. The continuing closure of many of historic Scotland's monuments remains another matter of concerns. Fellows' views on priorities for the Society in such territories, things that we should address, continue to be welcome. 2 years ago, David Caldwell stressed the Society's need to find adequate premises for its staff and to address our strategic plan aim to create what has been described as an independent heritage hub. Last year, I revealed some outline details of the costs of the property that had been already identified and of proposed ways of financing it. Because of the passage of time during the pandemic and the need for a re-evaluation, I have to say with regret that legal delays still mean that we are little further forward in exploring this idea today, so that the full process of consultation with you, our fellows, and other interested parties, which the former president promised, remains a commitment for the future. We have in recent days received a lengthy option to buy document, but too late for me to have anything coherent to say today, beyond the fact that Council has set up a group to evaluate the viability of this project and the associated fundraising requirements, and that the Director and Treasurer are currently drafting for Council's consideration a first business plan for the operation of the Heritage Hub previously mentioned. Lastly, it is with considerable sadness that I need to note the passing of our 4 distinguished honorary fellows previously mentioned. Obituaries will of course in time appear in the proceedings, but for those who did not know them, Caroline Wickham-Jones, in whose memory a conference was recently held in Aberdeen University, was a major and dynamic contributor to hunter-gatherer archaeology in Scotland. Professor Ted Cowan, latterly of Glasgow University's Dumfries campus, which he led, was an eminent and prolific Scottish historian who had retired to the rural stewardry, which he much loved. And Diederik van der Waals was a professor of archaeology at Leiden, whose biggest influence on Scottish archaeology was probably on beaker and cognate studies. He lived well into his 90s, as did, lastly, Miss Audrey Henschel, whose principal endeavours were her studies of Scottish chambered cairns, of which she was simply the doyenne. The Director has already noticed her general financial provision to this Society in her will, and it is altogether appropriate that she has stipulated that these funds should be directed towards the study of prehistory. I should also mention the passing of Sir Angus Grossart, whose memorial service in St Giles I attended on behalf of this Society. For a good number of years, he has generously funded the Society's lecture recording programme, amongst his many contributions to Scottish heritage, not least including the improvements to fabric within St Giles itself. The Director has already made proper acknowledgement of the hard work of the Society's professional staff, which I'm happy to endorse. I do know they are fully deserving of our thanks for their efforts on our behalf during these difficult times of still dominantly home working. Dr. Gilmore, our director, now well into his second decade in the post, has continued to lead from the front in addressing the many challenges on the horizon, thereby enabling the Society to flourish. The Society has thus come through its 241st year with new achievements, if not all we had believed possible. Thank you very much for your continuing support of it, and let us hope that we face greater normality in everyday things in the months to come. Thank you.
I think at one point there was talk of the Built Environment Forum Scotland, BEFS, being a partner in the acquisition of the new property. And I was just wondering if that was still live, or whether it was purely the Society by itself that was looking into this.
Thank you for that. I would need to pass to the director to address this in specifics. In general terms, I would say that it's probably safest to regard the project as being slightly in abeyance, and therefore external links we were making, I think, will all largely be subject to review and reconsideration. But Simon will be able to give greater detail.
Exactly as Ian just said, we'll have to review all of our collaborations with people on that project. The Built Environment Forum Scotland is a very small organisation. It was never going to be involved in the purchase and development of the property, but it was looking to perhaps come in to use the property with us under the same roof, so to speak, hence the term Heritage Hub. But since then, things have changed, and BEFs specifically are now all working from home and no longer have an office at all. So if they were to be interested in using the Society facilities, if and as when they get developed, it would likely be more on the line of touchdown desks and things like that, and use of meeting rooms and so on. But as Ian's already said, we will have to review all of those sort of parts of this project in light of changes that have happened, including changes with the Society. As Ian keeps saying, we are mainly still working from home ourselves at the moment, and the pressure that we did have on our accommodation offices is no longer quite as severe as it had been prior to the pandemic, of course. So yes, we'll maintain a close eye on it. We do have a new fundraising committee looking at the aspect of purchase and development of the project as well. So we'll see how it goes. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yes, please.
In fact, it's just to back up what Simon said, but also to comment on what you've said, going back to normal. The question now is what is normal?
Yeah.
And in nearly every society and business, normal is no longer what it was 3 years ago, and it doesn't look as if it's perhaps ever going to get back to that again. And I'm sure that that is something that's being looked at, because the requirements when the project was first conceived and where we are now will be two different things.
Thank you indeed for that. I hope I made it clear that we are acutely conscious of this, and have not taken any steps that commit the Society to anything in regard to property purchase or endeavours of that kind. The tectonic plates have shifted considerably. What happens a few years down the line is still, I think, very much uncertain. And please rest assured that we're very conscious of this and are proceeding with great caution. Thank you.
President, could I just add to your address one point, which is, while we are all conscious of the excellent archaeological and historical work of the four alas deceased honorary fellows, I think because an event like this is very introspective, we should acknowledge that Audrey Henshaw for many years was the Assistant Secretary of the Society. And in the days when Our Lady Fellows were perhaps not as well respected as they are today, I think we can all take what I mean from that. And also Caroline was Secretary of the Society. And I think that their service to the Society ought to be recognised at an event like this. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'm very pleased to accept that comment. And of course, the obituaries that will be forthcoming in the proceedings will, I am sure, be much more wide-ranging in their assessments of the various contributions than I was able to make today. But thank you for that.
Yeah, we have a question online from Marlena Wald, wondering if you or the board have considered pursuing a US tax designation 501c-3 so that the US fellows could make tax-exempt donations and bequests.
Okay, this is a technical question on tax exemption on US subscriptions, and I'll hand over to the director for that one.
We did look into it some years ago, and it proved to be fairly unwieldy at that point in time. But as we are a very different organisation now, that was quite soon after I was appointed, I think it'd be worth looking into again, and we will look into it to see if it's a viable use of society resources, because it does require a bit of work and I think money as well. So we'll have to look into it as well. We did have an offer at one point of, I think it was the National Museum Scotland 501c3, blah, 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 using their tax-exempt status abroad to somehow raise funds for the society. But again, there's something slightly odd about that and slightly dodgy, so we decided not to go down that route. So we will look into it, I'm sure, in due course, because I think now that we have a very, vibrant fellowship from all across the world who are participating in our events much more often, indeed actually asking questions from the States, then I think there'll be a great deal of opportunity potentially in setting up a 501c3. We
have got through all our business, ladies and gentlemen, fellows, and so may I conclude by thanking fellows, both those present at the anniversary meeting, our AGM, and those joining who have joined us online, in some cases from very different time zones. Just one reminder, and that is that our books are available for sale during the upcoming reception, and an online code, £5 off, all one word, and with the 5 as a digit, for books, for book purchases, will be available and through tomorrow as well as today. Our next meeting here is on the 15th of December, when we will hear a lecture from Professor James Graham Campbell, FBA, on the Viking boat burial at Killoran Bay, Colonsay, and its international context. Please book online and early for this to avoid disappointment. Thank you for your attention and for your attendance at the anniversary meeting. I hope to see you all soon. And in the meantime, depending on where you are, good afternoon, good morning, or good evening. Thank you.